interview. Our guest today is Shaparak Shajarizadeh's Crime. It's written with Rima El Khoury. It's published by Plon. And in it, you recount your journey from an upper middle class woman living in Tehran to an activist against the hijab, the Islamic veil, which is mandatory in Iran. Obviously, you were arrested and then you were sentenced to 2 years in prison. However, before the verdict was handed down, you decided to secretly flee Iran through Turkey, and you now live in exile in Canada. I just have a very simple question. How does one go from being an upper middle class woman to an activist against the Islamic veil?
I was just fed up with living this double life, living a lie, and pretend everything is okay. For many years, we faced violence. We were facing violence because of compulsory hijab. And the other thing is, I knew a little about women's movement in West, the suffragette movement. I was very fascinated by those women who made those changes, and now women in West can use it, and they have almost the same rights as men and equality. And I realized that those women were successful in their movements because they eventually they had the support of normal, ordinary women, workers. And in Iran, women's rights activists did their best for 40 years, but they didn't go anywhere because they didn't have the support of us. So when this campaign came, I realized this is the moment for me to join
the so-called White Wednesday campaign. And the principle, if I just for our viewers, was to wear white and film yourself.
To wear white or to be unveiled in streets and send your message to the journalists who started the campaign. And the campaign was simply asking normal women and men to come forward and be their voice. So that was the moment for me to join the campaign, and civil disobedience and non-violence campaign.
Right, there was a turning point. However, it's in December of 2017, a woman by the name of Vida Movaed goes in a very well-known place in the center of Tehran, decides to take her veil off, put it on a stick, and this really created quite a stir. And for you, this was a turning point, because this was not only about wearing white, it was taking the hijab and putting it on a stick.
Sure. For a few months, everybody were talking about compulsory hijab, protesting compulsory hijab, but that lady had she performed and she was standing there quietly and sending a message to the government, to the authorities, that I'm peacefully protesting this law. And it was very beautiful. For me, it was the most beautiful and peaceful civil disobedience in the world. And I was one of the first women who followed her path.
So you started doing the same?
The same, yeah. A few days after her.
A few days, quite a few times. And eventually what was bound to happen happened. You were arrested by the police. You recount in the book several of those arrests and also the humiliation, the violence in prison, also accusations of spying.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, I never went to that spot in the center of the city. I didn't want to get arrested. At the same time, I wanted other women and men to join our campaign, to see me in my neighborhood and join us. But yeah, during the interrogation, I faced most horrible things in the world, and the most scariest thing is that you realize that they can do anything with you when they capture you.
You were lucky, if I may say, because you were able to be defended by a well-known lawyer, Nasrin Sotoudeh, who defended you and is now herself in jail for a very long time, shortly after actually defending you. But this allowed you to have someone on your side telling you what to do, because I imagine there's a lot of intimidation and you don't know what to do when you face those situations.
She was my only hope. Although I wasn't able to talk to her or contact her during the time I was detained, but the thing that she had done for me was to brought the justice in public's eyes and told people about the things that had happened to me and to other women, also the other women, and I owe my life to her, my family's safety, and myself.
Right. So you were arrested 3 times, and at some point you decide, because you have a husband, obviously, you have a young son, and you say in the book that you realize that if I stay, I'm going to die, and so you decide to flee the country through a smuggler into Turkey, and now you're in Canada. Do you regret leaving the country? Or was it the best decision you made?
It's very complicated for me. At the same time, I'm able to advocate for women's rights and for my friends and my lawyer, which is great. But I'm not happy. I cannot enjoy freedom as much as I want, because all the thing. My mind is in Iran, and my heart is with my friends and my lawyer.
Right, because I mean the sentences maybe after you fled have become harsher and harsher. There's this group of women, those 3 women who decided on Women's Day last year to hand out flowers in the subway in Tehran, bareheaded. They were arrested, and now they have very long sentences. Is it maybe a consequence of what you did?
They were my friends. My close friend who was advocating for me during the time I was arrested was one of them, Mojgan Keshavarz. But the whole thing is women are getting braver, even though they see that what they had done to me or other women, and government wanted to send a message to all the women, Iranian women. But at the same time, if you see the news, if you see the videos, you see, even though with 24, 23 year sentence, women are getting bolder and braver, and they won't obey compulsory hijab, even though the police officers ask them. They're telling to their face that I don't believe in this law and I'm not obeying this sexual discrimination.
Do you believe this is still going on, or that the movement has been stopped because of the intimidation, because of other things?
Not like that. Not like it's not like the girls of Engelab Street, but they're doing another campaign just to film, just to record the oppressors, record the police officers who wants to arrest them, and they're brave enough.
You voted for Hassan Rouhani in 2013. You wouldn't do the same today?
Of course not.
Why not?
The time I voted 2 years ago, I didn't believe in any reform, even back then. It was just because I was an animal supporter, and they promised to have this right for animals. But I had believed in reform back before 2009. And I was one of the people who hoped that there are some changes, there's going to be some changes in the government. But after 2009 and the demonstration, we realized there's not going to be any reform in my country. And people were just voting, choosing between the bad party and the worst party. But after the demonstration in December 2017, when the Reformist Party killed innocent protesters, And after that, in 2017, they suppressed all the movements, labor movements, teachers movements, women's movements, and also last November, if you saw this horrible news from Iran, they killed, based on Reuters reports, more than 1,500 protesters, and arrested thousands of people in just 3 days. So you see, there's no difference between the reformist or the fundamentalist.
I understand. Just last question, because we're running out of time. Obviously, you're now advocating regime change, and some are saying that you're being used or allowing yourself to be used by those, especially in the U.S., pushing for regime change. Are you being used, you think?
I haven't been in touch with anyone from U.S., and this is the mindset of people that think women don't have a voice. This is me. I was always believing change and wanted change in my country with other Iranians, but I didn't have the chance. Now I have the chance, and you see the human rights situation, the violation of human rights are getting worse and worse in my country. What am I supposed to do? Do nothing? Now I have a platform as a human rights activist, as a women's rights activist, and I'm going to use that to just tell the world that these are happening in Iran, and open your eyes to the violation of human rights in Iran, and support the Iranian people and not the government.
Thank you very much, Shaparak Shajarizadeh, for coming.